Well, in Washington, it's another day, another vote for House Republicans struggling to elect a new speaker. The current GOP candidate, Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, was turned down in the opening ballot yesterday, with 20 Republicans voting against him. So Nikole Killion is on Capitol Hill with the latest on Jordan's chances ahead of today's vote. Nikole, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you and Marie. Congressman Jim Jordan has been in overdrive trying to secure the 217 votes he needs, but there is no clear indication he has this locked up.
The speaker has not been elected.
No speaker.
I think we're a mess.
And no precise prediction for when there will be one.
My guess would be it will take somewhere between the 5 rounds that it took Pope Francis to get elected to the 15 rounds that took Speaker McCarthy to get elected, but no more than that.
After going down in the first round, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan is back at it.
We're going to keep going. I've had great conversations, great discussions with our colleagues.
Lawler.
Speaker Kevin
McCarthy.
20 Republicans opposed Jordan and backed other candidates, including former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
You think Jim Jordan should drop out or withdraw?
I'm not going to tell Jim Jordan what to do. I'm just telling you what I think. I don't think he's going to get there.
Florida Congressman Carlos Jimenez is one of several lawmakers who tell CBS News he was turned off by pressure tactics from Jordan's camp. Others reportedly claim they were threatened with primary challenges.
Are you threatening to primary members who don't support you?
Of course not. I'm supporting incumbents. Whether I win or lose, but I think we're going to win.
The 9-term congressman has risen through the ranks despite not passing any legislation since taking office. As a founding member of the House Freedom Caucus, he was a conservative firebrand behind numerous investigations. Jordan is also helping to lead the impeachment inquiry against President Joe Biden as the chair of the powerful Judiciary Committee, and he's endorsed by former President Trump.
Jim Jordan is a patriot. He is an America First warrior who wins the toughest of fights.
If the goal is to continue taking marching orders from a twice impeached former president with more than 90 pending felony charges, then there is a candidate for you.
The top Democrat in the House, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, is calling for bipartisan talks to accelerate to find a consensus candidate. Meantime, momentum is also growing to extend the powers of interim Speaker Patrick McHenry, an idea now backed by 2 former speakers. Anne Marie?
Well, I mean, that doesn't give me much hope that they believe they could wrap this process up in a speedy way. You mentioned potential alternatives for the House if no speaker is elected today, but what option could have the most bipartisan support, if there's any? It seems like all the Republicans that are being put forth are certainly Republicans that align with Donald Trump. I haven't seen anybody with a whiff of bipartisanship thus far.
Well, and keep in mind, I mean, Republicans are in the majority, so they're the ones who kind of are tasked with plotting the agenda here. And so it's really kind of their call if they want to work with Democrats on this. But, as we have seen previously, that's not necessarily their MO. I mean, I think as far as Republicans are concerned, it's really now about trying to find a candidate that they can rally around, that can get the 217 votes if Jim Jordan can't. Short of that, I think that's why you're also now hearing these calls potentially to at least extend the powers of Patrick McHenry temporarily so that they can have more time to figure out who is the best leader.
So what do we know about the 20 Republican holdouts against Jim Jordan?
Well, again, it's a combination of things, and it runs the gamut in terms of, many of these members. Some of them are, more moderate members who are in swing districts who, are concerned about, some of the positions that Jim Jordan has taken in the past. You have other members who are still kind of really just frustrated and have gripes about the whole process and how this went down. Many members voted for Steve Scalise on the floor yesterday. Of course, he was a candidate before Jordan, and some feel that he got undercut by Jordan, which is why he withdrew. So there is some kind of tension there, which is why some of those Scalise loyalists say they're not budging at this juncture. And then there are those like, Congressman Jimenez, who we talked to, who says he still thinks that Kevin McCarthy is best positioned for this job. So there's a lot of varying factors as to why some of these holdouts have voted the way they did. did. The big question, of course, going in today is whether that 20 grows or whether some folks do decide to get on board with Jordan.
All right, Nikole, all I see is early nights and long days for you. Thank you so much for your coverage, though. Appreciate it.